specific LLM API, you are done. But I'm sure you might have built some specific layers from scratch to make SarahAI user-friendly.
The goal is not to force the model to behave like traditional software. All the big CEOs and people in the enterprise, they'll continue to have great people, AI assistant, with Microsoft, Claude, whatever. What about the small guy? What about the person who runs a restaurant or who has a trading company and who's doing great? So why should he not have access to something like this? That's why it works on WhatsApp and works across voice in all the major languages with a special focus on Arabic and all our Indian languages. Our models have been developed and trained around that. The intent with SarahAI is to give an AI chief of staff or an executive assistant in the hands of small businesses. People are more willing to give access to their email calendar to an AI tool than other humans.
It's not only a wrapper on top of LLM. There's like lots and lots of work goes into the entire pipeline.
Underneath the prompt, there's a lot of work that happens. Your tokens, which you might not even use, will get charged 10, 20 times because somebody has to meet some numbers. You need to keep your brain empty. The less is in your, because you need to make space for creativity, for innovation.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Techie Talks with Kuldeep. I am your host, Kuldeep Singh. Today, we are excited to have Mr. Abrar with us. Abrar is having 20 plus years of industry experience. Abrar, welcome to the show.
Hi, Kuldeep. Thank you so much for having me. Very excited to talking to you.
So, Abrar, before we talk about your startup, which you have founded recently, could you share about your experiences and journey so far in the industry?
Yeah, as you mentioned, I've been on the tech AI side for more than 20 years. Did my computer engineering from Canada, York University. Started my career at IBM, early days of, when the whole mobile payment side was coming in. Did lots of great, exciting projects, went through from an engineering and towards product, technical delivery, all of these things. Then early on, I led one of the projects where we did NFC tap payments. That was with AT&T, Verizon Wireless in the US, that got acquired by Google, which is now part of what you call Android Pay. That led me to start my first startup, where I was a CTO, co-founder, company called Lakoa. We use Bluetooth technology those days, BLE, for running payments, created a very interesting experience. That got acquired by a US company and had a little bit of an exit. I took a little break, my first retirement in a way, and I can tell you, sounds exciting, but after a while it got boring. But then my old friend from IBM, they called me from IBM Watson, and around this time, so this is roughly 10 years back, that was what brought me back. It was very exciting, and we started working on the Watson side of things with AI. So all of this before this ChatGPT stuff and working it with IBM Research, with large enterprise banks, solving a lot of things around fraud, vision AI, number of large things, early days. And it was more, I would say, what was called machine learning, deep learning back in the day, those type of things. Then I got a good opportunity to come to UAE, to Middle East. There was a UK-based cybersecurity company by the name CallSign that asked me to come here, build and set out their AI and engineering team. Did that, started working again on the enterprise side with banks, government entities, did a large project with UAE Ministry of Finance. And then roughly a year back, I saw a very good opportunity, a gap in the market on the SME, small businesses side. And that's what led me to SarahAI. So we started this company from here in Dubai, built it out, and launched our first product. And now we are continuing to evolve it, build it out, and it's now live, being used across the globe. But a lot of focus in the region. Our primary focus is Middle East, India. These are the places where we're very, very actively focused on.
No, and that's very interesting, right? So from even like the data science world, and then the Watson, where the machine learning became one of the important aspect, and now AI specifically in last 5 years has changed a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Most importantly, we have moved in the AI space as well. They are not only basic, the Q&A or standard, you are retrieving some documentation, but even like, the startup which you have built, it handles actionable operational tasks, right? Such as
Yes.
managing calendar, setting reminders, summarizing email. What is the core architectural difference, right? When you thought of building it, and also, the AI was also changing from nearly, search and reply to an active business assistant, which can solve the problem.
For me, quite honestly, technology is developing, evolving. I had a good understanding where things were coming uh, in that way. The thing happened was right before this, I built a large data AI advisor for UAE Ministry of Finance, and which was a large project, was well received, well marketed, and all. But when I did that, then a lot of people in my network from small businesses, SMEs, startups, they were coming to me and they're like, "Look, we want this," and I really felt that while, and I know Kuldeep, you and I, we work with mostly with the large enterprise companies and all. So over there, there's a lot of work going on and things going would continue. So it was more like for me, it was more like as people were asking me, and I felt something needs to be done there, and also to make it more affordable and accessible. So for small businesses and SMEs, there, and I think it's a little bit better, but still, people haven't moved beyond ChatGPT and asking questions and answers, even with Claude now, and a lot of. So we are on the technical side, we're aware of all the capabilities and all, right? In terms of like Claude Code and Gemini and all the different tools. But I would say, especially the non-technical people running everyday businesses, trading companies, restaurants, chains, hotels, all of these people, their exposure to AI right now, and I'm saying in a positive way, at least they're familiar with it. They started to trust it. So that was for me the main reason to start this in a way. And then on the tech architecture side, yeah, like I could see this very clearly how where things are going. So around that time, the whole thing was started on the AI agents, orchestration frameworks. Myself work developed on some of these. We used to work with AWS and Microsoft, so they had their own proprietary things. They were putting it together, but things like Crew AI, LangChain, all of these things were coming around, and I could see that now, where as we are moving into this phase where we could actually make AI do meaningful work, meaning like take actions, create an output, create an efficiency, and then again, when you look at, so the intention around the intent with Sarah AI is it's to give an AI chief of staff or an executive assistant in the hands of small businesses, SMEs, just like something which is very much like usually a human who's available to all the large CEOs and even CXOs across all the big companies. And I myself worked as one of the CTOs. I was in a chief of staff role to the CTO, and like the CTO had actually three assistants, me as a chief of staff, and five VPs, and he still struggled. So you can imagine, right? And in that way, right now, again, think about it, right? A small, like, why? So my argument was why when look, all the big CEOs and people in the enterprise, they'll continue to have great people, AI assistant with
Even
Microsoft, Claude, whatever, right? But what about the small guy? What about the person who runs a restaurant or who has a trading company and who's doing great? So why should he not have access to something like this? So the idea around SarahAI was always been to create an affordable, accessible, something which works with them. That's why it works on WhatsApp and works across voice in all the major languages with a special focus on Arabic and all our Indian languages. So, because that's more familiar, right? So the idea was how a large company, all the big banks and all the CEOs and CXOs work, and how can we bring that same capability in the hands of SMEs, small businesses, founders, even startup founders and all, who cannot quite
Yeah.
honestly afford a person or an expensive tool like that.
No, you are right, and it takes lots of courage. Even though people might feel, hey, AI is at the mature level, and when you even meet like some of the people nowadays, I started hearing this that hey, any app or anything which we are just building, it is just an AI wrapper, and they usually underestimate, the surrounding engineering, which is not just hey, you call an specific LLM API, you are done. But I'm sure you might have built some specific layers from scratch to make the SarahAI user friendly, as well as that it is responding to a user in this way that it increases his productivity and not just answering the basic questions.
I'll tell you, people who think that these are AI rappers and who would say things like, same people think in India they only speak one language, Indian. Okay. So we
Mhm.
all know India is not just Hindi or Indian. India is a large country with more than 400 languages, right? So the product itself is actually an orchestration layer. So we build a whole orchestration layer with product workflows. And it's a combination of different workflows, tools, API calling. With now, there's a lot of advancement with MCP servers, all the different integrations. So when you ask Sarah, simple thing like, can you call Kuldeep and set up a meeting for me? She will actually make a phone call, but before that, first of all, she will understand the intent. That's where an LLM is used. Then it will go into a workflow. Which Kuldeep? There's like four Kuldeeps. And then, it's all around the state management in terms of context, context management. It was this a first call, second call. And then what we built are very, very detailed workflows. And this is where the work happens. Core engineering, in the sense like how to go about. And there's a lot of things like if there's a clarification required, so she will ask uh, things around, simple things around dates and times. Even I've seen this myself and continue to see like, LLMs, especially large language models, they fluctuate. That is a known problem. Date and time. That sounds very simple to us, but when you're asking a 180 million context LLM around certain things, it gets around. So how do you handle all of these things? How do we handle time zones? All of this is goes into core engineering. So to the like somebody outside, it's like a simple prompt, but underneath the prompt, there's a lot of work that happens, and then latency, performance, observability, and there's still a lot of work going on in that.
No, you are right, and that's like the basic difference compared to the traditional software development. Even though like the chatbot or the ask assistant, etc., were available there, but then you had a very predictable pattern on the errors, and you could kind of make it deterministic. Now these non-deterministic things have taken over, and those are our primary interface. It really creates lots of the challenge. But this is also like a challenge which is also very well talked in the industry. Hey, have some human in the loop sort of a guardrail. So even if like in your case, before, the AI agent is allowed to write to a user's live calendar, send an email, or modify even, some CRM data. What validation layer do you have already implemented to prevent critical automated mistakes?
Yeah, so I think first of all, we should not pretend LLMs are deterministic systems, probabilistic systems, and they would do this thing, right? So the goal is not to force the model to behave like traditional software. The goal is to wrap probabilistic intelligence inside deterministic product boundaries. So in SarahAI, the LLMs, they help interpret intent, but the product itself controls the execution. So
Mhm.
when it picks the intent, if the confidence level is low, it will ask the user to clarify it in the sense. And then we have a very much like a permission-based system. When we're asking Sarah to, go and update the CRM for some information, and if there's any question, it would ask it, right? So in purely in a voice conversation, it is now becomes a balance of, and I've seen this from the work, that certain people, it's also different people have different preference. Some people don't want too many questions. And this is where the intelligence level comes. So it's about the expectation, right? Now, so you have to balance and manage this thing in the sense with there could be a personalization, and as it builds more context, builds memory around a certain person's preferences, it gets better over time. And it understands that, okay, this is what, for in your example, for example, Kuldeep prefers that I just go through with these things. But certain things, when we asking Sarah to respond, so one of our thing is, because SarahAI works through WhatsApp. And once you set up, it's fully available on WhatsApp, especially a voice. So with SarahAI, you can actually, when an important email comes, for example, I see Kuldeep, you sending me an email, I will get a notification that Kuldeep sent an email. I will get ask her to summarize it. And then she'll ask me, should I draft a response and send to Kuldeep? And so I will first see that draft, right? And I can, and again, all of this happening through voice notes in 100 plus languages, Hindi, Gujarati, Punjabi, whichever language you wanted, right? But it is kind of like the
Mhm.
settings are also there, right? In that sense that I'm just having conversation in a certain language, but the email will be sent to you most likely in English in that way. But at that step, it will be once I'm comfortable and I've given it, and then I'll be like saying, send the email, then it will send it. Similar, so it is this combination that we follow. And somehow we also classify actions in terms of risk that are involved, right? So, for example, if I
Mhm.
say, set up a reminder for me, that's a low risk. There is just me involved. And if it's a, wrong reminder, there's a lot. Consequences are less. So we try to make that more and more fast to execute. But if I'm saying that, go and update my CRM record, there's a higher risk thing. So we would classify and take a confirmation before taking that final action, and then also give you provide you like a confirmation that this is what was done in the same thing and the history is maintained. So whatever Sarah is doing, you from a purely from a product perspective, the idea is you're always in control, takes your permission, and secondly, you have visibility in the actions that have been taken, so that if something happens, you can actually, go and fix it as a person. You would.
No, that's very good. And because as we know, and some people might not understand, in the detailing that, hey, uh, this is where, the hallucination context and all is very much important to make sure, the users in the end, although we are using, the LLM, but he uh, requires a deterministic approach, right? If he wanted to book with a user, he wanted to book it with a user and don't wanted to get into the fluff of the naming, similar time, or maybe, the other thing. But also this adds a bit complexity, right? And
Mm-hmm.
also as a user, also I know from the conversational voice or chat interface, I prefer near instant speed. But high accuracy often require complex agent, as you said, right? But they increase latency as well as the cost. How do you balance accuracy, latency, and cost optimization in the production environment?
This is, no, all you're saying, those are the challenges. So when we started this project, the work, when I built SarahAI, our initial version, our latency was very poor, especially on the voice side. But we continue to work towards it. We looked at, this is also comes, there's a lot of progress has happened. Uh, my personally, the reason I got into all of this was because I'm very bullish on voice and
Mhm.
voice as an interface, especially around languages. So all the different languages that we speak in our region, and my other thinking is around the fact that for small businesses, English is not the language, and in our region, especially in Middle East and India, India there's more English, but in Middle East, especially one of our primary market in Saudi Arabia, small businesses, they're primarily in Arabic, right? So how do we use this technology to make it work? So f- quite honestly, from that perspective, I saw a lot of promise in AI, and we continue to work on it. What we do in this area is, for example, when there's latency, we just like you have to, if you try out Sarah, there's certain times you'll hear this like she's typing, and that's just to show. And what we've done is kind of like if you have a secretary and you ask her to, hey, go and find me some file, she's going to take some time. It's a sort of thing. So our approach has been to manage things, right, in that way. But if I ask Sarah that, hey, what are my meetings today? That's a more, that information is always there in context, in recent history, memory. That's a good, quick one. She would do this. So I would say, while there are still latency wise on voice, there's a lot of work to be done, and especially Kuldeep, when we are doing different languages. So there's a whole pipeline around STT, translation, TTS, response, LLM, right? So
Mhm.
it like sounds simple, but there's like literally 15 to 20 steps. Now delivering 15 to 20, and we actually, for us, like we try to keep it like under 6 seconds overall. And that's a challenge that we work towards. So we look at it, and then for me, it's so, I would feel like we're just at the starting point. Continuous work, the more it's used, it's then it improves naturally, given, everything that is in English. So if you're speaking in English, everything is really great. But we're putting a lot of focus on our, I would say, even Urdu, Hindi, and there's another thing for user to know. I'm sure in India people know this. We call English, Urdu and Hindi
Mhm.
mixed, right? So which is also another very interesting thing. So we work through that in a way. One of the things I would say, because an assistant and she knows some of the names, so we've built our own data sets. So we've built a
Mhm.
very large data set of Indian names in Hindi so that she
Mhm.
pronounces them. Same thing we've done with Arabic, right? So we've got like 6 million Indian names. That's been our models have been developed and trained around that. So that the reason we do this is so that we save, I would say, and we talk in milliseconds. So, right, 200, 400 milliseconds are saved because a lot of those pronunciation, and there's a number of techniques we've done so that it does not waste time in trying to translate or figure out your name, Kuldeep. It's kind of like natively there. Other things we do more and more that you get in detail, like as you are adding those contacts in our platform, the more usage, and I think that's given, the very simple thing is, the more you use it, the better it gets, the better it starts understanding names, the better it starts forming those graph relationships. between your contacts, priority emails, like the relationship you and I have over email, WhatsApp, task, and then it just starts retaining. And I would say lots of work to be done. Us, along with all the people working in AI around memory, context, state management, and then overall latency stuff. And your question about cost, yes. So I would say if you're using the frontier model products like Claude or Gemini or OpenAI, then
Mhm.
yeah, then those are the token costs you use. When we build a platform and application, so we're agnostic, we're LLM agnostic. We use a combination of these. So we're not gonna waste Claude tokens on certain things which are very simple. That's where we use our open source. So if you look at an application, my thing would be whatever you're building, it has to be LLM agnostic. You don't want to get tied up into uh, some of these things, especially this year. So as you know, we have 3 AI companies going for IPO with SpaceX, AK under AI, XAI just last week. So they're the first one out of the thing, and then Anthropic, OpenAI, all coming. So this year is gonna be all about revenue, and then I can, not to get into too much detail, but yeah, if I was you, keep an eye on your token usage. It's gonna go up, and you won't even know. So just be wary of your token usage costs. Keep an eye, keep your alerts, and just understand this is a very specific year for AI as a business because we have 3 companies going for an IPO. So it's all about showing numbers, revenues. Your tokens, which you might not even use, will get charged 10, 20 times because somebody has to meet some numbers by certain dates.
No, you are right. And I think you have handled it very well, specifically from the text data perspective. But you are also providing, the voice functionality, which is also very much used specifically in the Indian and the UAE market. But that also brings the challenge because sometimes these voice notes, they contain background noise, broken
Mm-hmm.
grammar, half-formed thoughts, and even sometimes poorly pronounced names. Is there a high level you can share with us, hey, what happens when a user drop maybe like a 45 or 1 minute voice notes into SarahAI to give a structured business action?
No, we've done those cases, and those are the challenges that we've come across because that's how people naturally speak, or
Mhm.
they would speak to. For me, it's always been like 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 literally mimicking or designing a typical human experience with the people we have as your assistants, right? So in that case, so we've gone through this. We go through intensive training. We had before it went to production. We ran a very intensive beta program. Had 3,000 plus users who came into that, along with that. So which helped us build that training, run through that. And we've used this is where your observability tools come in. Eval, we use LLM as a judge. So all the core operations, we run them. There's an expected outcome where we look at the confidence, and again, all running through the LLM as a judge as a technique under our observability tools platforms that we use. In our case, we use Langfuse. In that case, we've looked at a few other ones as well. But like I would say it's very much, if you ask me from an engineering side, is classical observability. We used to use Grafana, all of those logs. So systems were doing many things, and a lot of time you wouldn't know what happened. They were deterministic systems, but I'm sure there were things that would happen, and you need to go through the logs, right? So for me, it's a similar concept, except yes, it's a different challenge, a different set of tools. It's no longer commands, and it's not like, this input, that output. There could be a whole variation of it, but you build it in the sense, and many great tools, lots of work going on. Couple of people I know, even the research side. So this is an active area of research, especially through some of my friends and colleagues in Toronto and Canada, US as well, which are working, and more and more to make these systems, increase the confidence level, and heavy amount of training goes in, which benefits everyone at the end of the day.
No, and that's why I wanted to make sure it is not only a wrapper on top of LLM. There is like lots and lots of work goes into the entire pipeline. There is also one more important thing is this SarahAI connect deeply with the sensitive tools, because if you say, hey, email, contacts, calendar, and WhatsApp, they contains sometime, the sensitive information, or at least, the information which I don't wanted to share it widely. How do you technically scope SarahAI to only interact with the explicit data and, the tools where user grants access to?
For us, because when you set up the application, it is very much the permissions you give. So even on the email side, you can give read-only permission or read or respond, first of all. And then as a platform and a company, we've completed all of our security certifications, certified by Google, Microsoft, CASA. So it's very clear. And we've seen such an interesting thing, Kuldeep. I'll tell you some from experience with some of the founders. They're more willing to give access to their email calendar to an AI tool than a other human, because over there privacy is a bigger issue. And initially when I came across, I was surprised to hear this. And again, there's certain people, because people are telling me that, okay, bro, I would rather give Sarai access to my email than another person, because that person can read the information and they can, very simple thing from an assistant. Like if they're getting your email and they see that one person shared the story with me that, they closed a certain deal, and then next week that person was asking for an increase in salary. So quite honestly, I would say, so there's a category of people who will never trust a system, and that's fine. And then I've seen on the other side of people who actually want to give all the access, because they also know, and I also subscribe to this view, that currently all systems and all, like, it's not like everybody, like the governments and all, they have access to data. So it's not like things are private. It's about what they do with that information. And if you're doing anything, and I mean, it makes sense, because if you ask me, it's beyond cybersecurity. From a personal security perspective, yeah, I do want to make sure whatever's going around my government knows what's going on, so they prevent certain things, and we don't want all these bad people to doing things, right. So sorry, we digress in a totally different direction, but on our side, it's very much you have control over it. You want to give certain access, you do it. And for me, it's always a question of value versus uh, privacy, right? If you want to use something which is going to make your life easier, instead of you checking 5 different systems and checking, or missing important emails, missing important messages, and give SarahAI those access and that control, and see all of this running through WhatsApp. Because essentially what we've done is all the different systems you connect, and we make that interface come accessible over WhatsApp through voice notes or direct chat, essentially. And under the other thing I'll tell you, like even from a meta side of things, they put a lot of limitations on what you can do on the WhatsApp platform itself, in a way, which is quite interesting. But so it's not a very easy thing to, it's getting more and more difficult to make things happen WhatsApp. But yeah, we've been working on that. We've got good history, background, and we have a good, strong relationship with Meta. So it allows us to make things happen on the WhatsApp front for our customers.
No, good. And even like, from the expansion perspective, your focus is on like the India and UAE, which are primarily like the mobile first behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And there makes more sense to, and that hopefully it will increase their productivity. But from a longer term product vision perspective, what is your goal look like when you say, hey, I'm like the Sarah vision, which I put is now successful, at least, for the level one.
Our vision is pretty much around solving problems for SMEs, mid-sized enterprise companies, the business problems. So my view and the reason I left my job or working in that thing, and I'm working in this area, is bringing the AI technology, making it affordable, accessible, and in the context, of what is familiar. So in our region, we are what's familiar to us. WhatsApp familiar, voice is familiar. That's how we interact
Yeah.
with people every day, no matter what we do. Either we're speaking to them, we're calling them, we're leaving voice note, or we're chatting with them on WhatsApp, right? So around the fact, and that is a more familiar space. It's not about getting you used to another complex enterprise system. And this
Mhm.
is where I myself see it like, trying to, especially I would say, in the SME and all, like, look, sure, we've all seen all the CRM tools. So we do integrate, and I use the CRM tools myself. I've been using them. I hate some of them, quite honestly, some of the big ones as well. And the mobile apps are garbage. I can never do what I want to do. And I live my life on mobile, quite honestly, on my phone. I'm out and about. That's how most of the, I would say, majority of the founders and SMEs and small business people, because they're out and about. We don't, we are not like doing 9 to 5 jobs, sitting in front of a computer with a, big dashboard and all of those things. The reality is around the fact that we are on our phone, we can do that. And efficiency comes on the fact that when you're able to do these things, I one of the good things I heard recently, quite honestly, and this is more about, there's a whole side of this, that I'm talking about on a psychological level. There's so much load that we carry now with all the uh, different tools and products, and the fact that we're so accessible, that every day on average we are now dealing with, like, 2 or 3 times X more actions than, like, I would say, like 10 years back. So the best way is to get things off your brain, and you just, with SarahAI, you just pull up on WhatsApp and drop a voice on, be like, Sarah, create a reminder for me to do this, or Sarah, add this task that I need to send Kuldeep something. So at least you take it off your brain. And purely from a founder and a startup, even from an engineering perspective, you need to keep your brain empty. The less is in your, because you need to make space for creativity, for innovation, right? Now, if in your brain it's like, oh, I have to call Kuldeep, and then I have to send this file to Rahul, and I have to do this and that, and I'm carrying that in my brain, and I'm coming home, and then I'm opening the computer, and then I'm doing all this stuff, right? So as soon as I get a message from Kuldeep that, oh, Abrar, send me this thing, and I may not have that file, or I may not be able to do this, but at least I'll be like, Sarah, put a reminder to send a file to Kuldeep tomorrow at 4 p.m. At least it's gone from my brain. Now I'm making space for something else that I need to do. Right?
Absolutely. And that's where, all these tools are helping and making you productive. So, Abrar, from the industry perspective, and since you have also seen, the traditional data science and machine learning and the latest AI and the agentic AI, what is what is your thinking or the experience saying, hey, at this level we will be in the next 3 to 5 years from the overall the industry perspective, and also what will be the one key piece of advice which you would like to give it to the builders, either it's engineer, product manager, or the founder, who wants to get their hands dirty in building something in this space?
Let me come to the second part. My advice to everyone, especially all your listeners and viewers of this podcast, would be look, we are living in, this is like, I would say, once in a lifetime opportunity. And if you have a thing, and now we have building has become easier with, Claude Code and Codex and Cursor, all of this. Engineering is easier. So don't overthink too much. Uh, just build, quite honestly. Go ahead and build anything. Uh, People are building all sorts of things. But that being said, if you want to take it very seriously, I would say then it just takes you back to the core, 101. Find a problem. Go deeper with that, So if there's a if in your own view or based on what's around you in your own context, uh, look at into this, and it's just classical problem, uh, and understanding first principles, why are people doing certain things. So just go deep and deep digger into this. Forget about my other thing would be, do not follow this is another thing I know which distracts people. It used to affect me at a point. Every month there's a new model, new release. Like Claude is doing this thing today, Gemini is doing this thing. Like right now, we're in a very massive race I would say, between US and China and the developing countries. And like I said before, this is a year of IPO. There's going to be a lot of that for the rest of the year. Don't get too much focus. And also the other thing, if you don't get discouraged about Claude doing things and all these, especially, I know your podcast runs on YouTube. I get all these videos where they create these, Claude has killed like 1,000 startups. That's garbage. Don't follow any of that. Don't get discouraged by all the stuff you see on YouTube or Twitter.
Oh, thanks. And I think that's very much important. Specifically, we will see lots and lots of development in the AI and the Gen AI space. All
Yeah.
right. So we covered your journey from start till end, and it was very fascinating how you were building something specifically at the enterprises for the enterprises, but then you looked into this very specific market segment specifically for the SME, which is most of the time gets overlooked and people are not giving that much attention. But you looked it into the detailing, what are their core problem, and also have built the solution, which probably should ease their the scheduling, tasking, and all those the day-to-day task which takes certain day of their calendar, which they might be using it for building the new connection and the new businesses.
Yeah. And I would say, Kuldeep, it's also because, look, with AI is giving us a massive unlock into things which are not possible. So 10 years back, like it was not possible to serve the SME industry without AI.
No, you are absolutely correct. And in the end, it is also here to fix, the demand and supply problem because there were so many initiatives where we couldn't get, the staffing. And now with the help
Mhm.
of the AI in general, we should be able to, get more things done, even with, the same staffing and all. So I'm hoping the initiative which were in the back room will come to the forward and hopefully they will be live and they will be solving some of those problems. And definitely even from the government and the small medium enterprises, this is very much needed because one, they are like always the cost savvy because they do have less budget to spend, and their segment is always hey, they need to dealt it with smaller enterprises, which means a bigger customer needs to just make maybe one call or two call, but the smaller customer needs to make the 20 calls to get something in their business.
Yeah, I think we're living great times, and I think there's a lots to be done by everyone. So it's great to be doing.
All right, so we reached towards the end of our podcast. Thanks a lot, Abrar, for joining and sharing these insights with us.
Thank you, Kuldeep. Really nice to be here.
That's it for this episode of Techie Talks with Kuldeep. Until next time, keep learning and keep innovating. Thank you for watching.